At an event on Tuesday, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen spoke about the Biden-Harris administration's commitment to racial equity in their economic agenda. Secretary Yellen called it a, quote, centerpiece of our economic agenda. The Treasury Secretary said that racial equity is not only a moral priority, but it is also, quote, vital to our economic success. Secretary Yellen spoke about the steps the administration has taken to promote racial equity, including the Infrastructure Law, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Since January of last year, the Biden-Harris administration has made racial equity a centerpiece of our economic agenda. Advancing racial equity is not just a moral priority, it is also vital to our economic success. Led by President Biden and Vice President Harris, our efforts to build a fairer economy began with our economic recovery. We know that communities of color were hit hardest by the pandemic, and reaching and supporting these communities is a core priority in our implementation of the American Rescue Plan. 2.5 years into the pandemic, data indicates that our recovery has been historically equitable, with record drops in the unemployment rate for many communities of color. But it's not enough to help families simply recover. Together, we're also building a stronger and more inclusive post-pandemic economy. Investing in disadvantaged communities has far-reaching effects beyond the communities themselves. It can offer high returns on investment and boost economic growth. The administration's trifecta of legislation enacted over the past year, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, CHIPS and Science Act, and Inflation Reduction Act, will create good-paying jobs and growth opportunities for businesses across the United States. These laws will expand economic opportunity for communities of color and other underserved people and places. A major part of our strategy is to ensure that historically underserved communities have the capital they need to seize these new opportunities. And just this month, we announced the Treasury has made over $8 billion of investments from the Emergency Capital Investment Program in more than 160 community financial institutions across the country. Through this program, Treasury is helping to level the playing field for borrowers that face the greatest barriers to access capital. As we implement these measures, our Treasury team has been intentional in ensuring that we reflect the background and experiences of all of America. We have the most diverse leadership team in Treasury's history. We have hired our first counselor for racial equity, and we have recently established a new Office of Tribal and Native Affairs and appointed members to the Treasury Advisory Committee on Racial Equity to help make progress on our key priorities.